How's it going, everyone? Today we have Cam Hope and John Wilson on with us. John Wilson, the president and CEO of the Wilson's Group companies, also a chair of the Victoria Hockey Legacy Society, also the part owner of the BCHL Victoria Grizzlies and the Baseball Victoria Harbor Cats, with lots of community involvement. Cam Hope is the current CEO of BC Hockey Canada, the former VP of Hockey Ops and assistant GM of New York Rangers for 7 years, 8 years with the WHL Victoria Royals, serving as president and general manager, and also also won in 2013-2014 the Lloyd Saunders Memorial Trophy as WHL Executive of the Year. Thank you very much for joining the podcast today as we talk about Hockey Day in Canada.
Thanks for having us, Brandon.
Is there anything else you'd like to add as an intro to the podcast?
No, I think we're good. We're looking forward to speaking with you and talking about this great event that's coming in January.
Great sponsors put on, Sportsnet, Scotiabank being part of it all as well. Hockey Day in Canada is January 17th to 20th here in Victoria, with the big alumni celebrity game on January 19th at Save-On Memorial Center. John, can you speak to the event's impact on Greater Victoria and how it creates a legacy to promote our hockey in this region in future years?
Yeah, so this got started. Sportsnet actually reached out to us, to Destination Greater Victoria, and I'm on the sports commission with Destination Greater Victoria, and it was a great. That commission is about bringing sports events to Greater Victoria, in particular in the shoulder and off season, to enhance the visitor economy here, and this event fit right in. Keith Wells and Paul Nursey from DGV asked me if I'd share the event, and I was quite happy to do so. It's under Sportsnet and Scotiabank's leadership and sponsorship, if you will. It's become a staple in Sportsnet and Hockey Night / Hockey Day in Canada's calendar every year. Often it's in smaller communities, and most often it's in communities, actually all the time, it's in communities that are much colder than our community. So as such, we had to make some adjustments on what this would be. It's going to be right down at Ship Point, right in the harbor. We're expecting a nice, clear, crisp Victoria Day to show, or days to show off to the rest of Canada. And but we brought in synthetic ice surface from the States, and that's a legacy piece. So the Victoria Hockey Legacy Society, which is putting on this event in conjunction with Destination Greater Victoria and the Victoria Royals, along with the partnership of Province of British Columbia, City of Victoria, and many others, have been able to bring in this synthetic ice. Ex-NHLer Danny Gare's company, actually, he'll be coming out to speak on it on air, and it is a it is a 4-day event, but it culminates on the Saturday, where there's going to be 10 to 12 hours of live broadcasting right from Inner Harbor, right across Canada. They estimate 8 to 10 million people viewing it, and side stories all along the way about Victoria, the history of hockey in Victoria, a celebration of hockey in Victoria, if you will, and with a focus on mental health as well, with the Cornell brothers joining us and the Cornell Foundation. So it's pretty exciting, and of course we couldn't do any hockey event in British Columbia without the BC Hockey being involved, and my good friend Cam Hope coming on board, and his history in this city speaks for itself, and great hockey guy. So we're so happy to have Cam and his team involved, and they're supporting us all the way.
Awesome. Yeah, I know it's very exciting for Victoria, obviously, to host the event, as hockey here in Canada is just a big platform for us all, obviously, as we grow up with it, whether some are playing or some are not, but lots of talk about that, and brings everyone together, even watching hockey.
Sure.
Cam, do you want to speak a little bit about I guess about the event and impact here in Greater Victoria, and just for future years, and what could come from it?
Yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, the three of us all know because we're hockey people, but anytime that you can bolt on something that is a real showcase for our game, the game that, we think is so important. When people think of what sports does for a community, we've now been through a pandemic and seen what it's like when people can't gather, when you can't participate in these kind of community events and team sports and this sort of thing. And it really takes its toll, and it was a big wake up call for all of us those dark years there. But when hockey is at its best, when all sports at its best, but when we're talking about sport and community sport in Canada, we're talking about hockey. When hockey's at its best, it lends itself to all of these things. We've got across BC and Yukon, more than 60,000 participants on the ice every weekend, right? Players, coaches, managers, volunteers, officials. It's a big part of people's lives, and a lot of it just happens. We're not always showcasing it. It's going on all around us, and it's a big part of our lives. So when something like this comes along, and there's an opportunity to put our game out front, an opportunity to show off the South Island and Victoria to millions and millions of people, it's a real no-brainer. But it doesn't just happen, as John said. It takes a lot of people and a lot of time and organization, and John downplays his role in this, but the first I heard of it, like the first most people in Victoria heard about it, was through John, because he was doing the heavy lifting at the beginning, putting the committees together, bringing the tens and sometimes hundreds of people together to do this heavy lifting with Keith Wells, Paul Nursey, and all of us here at BC Hockey and everybody else, just to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row. And it's going to look beautiful. It's going to be a wonderful series of events for a few days. But man, there's been a lot of work put into it, and I hope somebody carries John down Government Street on their shoulders and maybe buys him a beer after this, because he's going to deserve it. But looking forward to it. I know, Brandon, that the most important part of the whole weekend is January 19th. It's the alumni game, which for some reason you're playing in, and neither John or I got invited. I don't know how that worked, but that's just one event. When we're down at Ship Point with the arena that'll be set up down there with the synthetic ice, there'll also be some ball hockey down there and some street hockey set up. We've got events planned down there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, triad clinics. We've got our minor hockey associations involved. We've got officiating people coming out to put on some clinics for officials. It's just going to be a real celebration of hockey. Can't wait.
John, with this whole process, when was this announced back? I mean, I had the invite a little while ago, but
I think it was in the summertime. I don't know the exact date. I think it was in August we announced it. And what I can tell you, I think it was the hottest day in Victoria history, because we announced it on Ship Point, and oh my gosh, it was hot down there. It was incredibly hot. Jeff Gordon flew in. The Sportsnet folks were here. The Scotiabank folks were here. And we had the opportunity to announce it on that day. We've been working on it. As Cam said, it's an army of people. We just had another committee meeting this morning. There's 42 people on the Zoom call. So it is a plethora of people putting forward their time and effort. On the 17th, November 17th, we announced it at the Royals game. We dropped the puck at the Royals game with the Scotiabank folks, and we got the merch out there with the Royals now as well. So so it's we're trying to get the excitement up, and Victoria is really becoming a hotbed to have events, and we need to showcase. I was at the BC Lions announcement yesterday, talking to the owner and the president of the Lions, and they're coming out to this event to watch Victoria in action and how we can put on events. Because as you know, on Labor Day weekend, it will be one of the biggest events ever here scheduled in Victoria, with the kickoff Pacific and the BC Lions home game right at Royal Athletic Park. So it's really good stuff and showcasing Victoria, and can only help our visitor economy in the future.
For sure, yeah. I mean, there's just drive so many people, locals, of course, but others to gather around. And then, as you mentioned, with all over broadcasted on TV as well. That's very cool to see. I know, just from my own travels, and then obviously playing hockey around the world, people do talk about Victoria, and just always mention they hear it's one of the most beautiful places to live in the world. So yeah, it's a great thing for this city. Just going, I guess, to previous years, Hockey Day in Canada, has it happened? Was it happening last year? Or when was the last one that they've
Yeah,
had? Is that
yeah. Last year it was back east in just lost it in Ontario, some small town in Ontario. It may come to me here. Keith Wells, actually from at this Destination Greater Victoria, went back there and checked it out. And Owen Sound, I knew it would come to me. That's where it was. Owen Sound. And again, they had natural ice and freezing cold temperatures and a smaller community. It's it's great for the small communities. This is a bigger community, and the showcase, the gala that we're having on the Thursday night will be big. We're having that at the Empress Hotel, and there's 80 some on tables. Still tables and chair and seats left to buy if any of your listeners are interested, and it's going to be a great event. Lots of good speakers at that event, lots of excellent NHL alumni. Brian Burke's confirmed. Berkey's coming out, and Wednesday night. On the Wednesday, we're having a legend broadcasters of hockey, Tim Ryan, Jim Lang, who ironically both of them live in Greater Victoria. I had no idea. These are longtime broadcasters. Jim Robson is confirmed, and Bernie Pascal. And Brandon, you're probably going, who are these people? But Cam and I know them well, and kind of grew up listening to them broadcasting the Canucks and others. So it's pretty cool. They'll be at a special event at Bayview, who's one of our big sponsors, Ken Mariash and the team there. And that'll be an interesting event on the Wednesday. And then the Thursday, we have the golf. We have a golf event at Victoria Golf Club, which will be kind of neat watching people play golf in January. I'm sure will be the envy of the rest of rest of Canada. And that's going to be a really good event. All three Courtnall brothers are coming out. Russ from LA, Jeff over from Vancouver, Bruce lives here locally and is on our committee and has done some heavy lifting to make that involved. So Sophia Pugh and her Scotiabank team here on the island are doing great work raising money for the Courtnall Foundation. And from the committee meeting today, it's looking like they're going to be presenting a check of over $100,000 to the Courtnall Foundation, which is, as we all know, just a huge benefit to our community and in general, whether it's sports or not. I think we've all been impacted with our friends and family around mental health, and it's something we really need to focus on as a society. And they've taken a big step there with the Archie Courtnall Foundation at the Royal Jubilee Hospital. So we have a big festival atmosphere down at Ship Point. We're going to have 3 ball hockey rinks. I already mentioned the synthetic rink, and we'll have activation through BC Hockey, through schools, all sorts of stuff. Really neat stuff planned all 4 days. And then the alumni game on Friday night at Save on Foods Memorial Center in conjunction with the Royals. That's going to be hopefully a sold out event there. Lots of great alumni coming, and with a little bit of a more West Coast focus. We got the Canucks alumni coming. When we first had this conversation, there's the Wendell Clark, Darcy Tucker gang that come out all the time. But I mentioned to him, there's a lot of people, generations on this island, who probably don't know those guys and are not Leafs fans anymore. They're Canuck fans. And so we were able to engage the Canucks alumni. They're coming out, Kirk McLean and many others. Greg Adams, who just lives up in Duncan. And of course, the Courtnall brothers both play for the Canucks. So that's really neat stuff as well. And then Saturday culminates with the broadcast right across Canada, and with 4 games, all the Canadian teams play. Of course, one of the big things we were able to pull off that's never been done at Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada before is we're able to bring out the nighttime broadcast crew that usually stays at this at the Rogers broadcast studios in Toronto during this event. Usually it's just Ron McLean that comes out, but all the panel are coming out, including Kevin Bieksa, Jennifer Broderell. They're both playing in the alumni game. Carl Ablak and his team for the alumni, they're doing a great job. And we're going to have a who's who of alumni. It's going to be really special night as well. So, but with the panel being here, they're going to broadcast, and that's why we're getting an extra 2 hours, 3 hours, because the last game they usually sign off from the location, but they'll actually stay on location for the last game because the panel will be here. Broadcast, you wouldn't believe the shot, overview over top of the Milestones restaurant, right outside Destination Greater Victoria's Tourism Center, looking straight at the ledge, the Empress on the left-hand side and the Inner Harbor there. It's going to be something to behold. And yeah, it's going to be the best Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada ever. We're confident in that.
Sounds like a ton of activities and events going on. That's great.
I don't know about you, Brandon, but I'm exhausted just listening to it. I don't know. I'm gonna have to get some sleep in earlier in the week. That week, I'm gonna look at my calendar here and see if I can slide in a couple of days off because
yeah, we got you selling hot chocolate down there, Cam.
You might see me down there doing that. I love doing stuff like that, but it sounds like it's going to be a lot. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Same. Yeah, no, it's again, I remember hearing it back when you said that it was announced, and then it was just on the Hockey Night in Canada panel. I think 2-3 weeks ago when Kevin Bieksa and Ron McLean were presenting the Victoria Royals jersey and talking about just the connections to Victoria. So very cool that way. And
and of course, as we all know, next year marks the anniversary of 100-year anniversary of the Victoria Cougars winning the Stanley Cup. So we'll be doing some segments on that, if you will. The Stanley Cup, Jeff Courtnall. This is the first time ever as well. Jeff Courtnall will be bringing the Stanley Cup paddling in on a Songhees canoe into the Inner Harbor. Usually it's Lanny McDonald carrying the Stanley Cup, but we've asked for special permission for Jeff to carry the Stanley Cup, which of course he won with, I believe, Cam's when Cam was involved with the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
So exciting times there, local, and they'll be welcomed ashore by the Songhees Nation, and then there'll be a walk through the harbor to the Canada sign, and it will be specially placed there. So we'll have the Stanley Cup here this whole time, making visits to schools and doing a bunch of stuff with that. So that's really neat as well.
Very cool. Yeah, the kids and all the kids, but definitely the hockey ones that will recognize, sure will love that around here. That's awesome. Wow. Yeah, no, that's a lot. There's a lot of stuff. That's what
now you know why I got such a big committee.
I bet that it takes a lot. I'm learning that now through the business stuff.
Absolutely.
You know, one of the great things about this, and I don't mean to jump on ahead of your next question, Brandon, but as a transplant into Victoria, which I am, I mean, I've been here for a little more than a decade now. But you know, people across Canada, this for a lot of people, it's going to be the first time that they really get an understanding of just how connected to hockey Victoria is. I grew up in Edmonton, and you know, it's hockey, 24/7, and honestly, at least 10 months out of the year, you can probably skate outside. But my idea of what Victoria was that's a place that you went on vacation, and there may not, never saw a rink here, really. And although I knew Grant Fuhr played for the Cougars because I was an Oilers fan, but it's really, as John says, this is really an opportunity to showcase Victoria for everything that it is. And I think open some eyes, not just about how wonderful and beautiful the community is, which everybody I think knows, but just how connected to hockey. Those of us that are here now understand, the legacy of winning a Stanley Cup here, and the Patrick brothers and the Courtnalls and there's so many connections to our game, and it's thriving right now. I mean, in the South Island, our registration in the South Island is higher than it's ever been. Just from Nanaimo down, we've got thousands and thousands and thousands of hockey players playing the game, despite the fact that really the limitation is just the amount of ice. We can't create our natural ice. So it's just, facilities are the only restriction to more growth in hockey. We just got numbers the other day that came in, just number of officials. We've got almost 900 registered officials from Nanaimo down. And to the point where we don't even have enough games to keep them all busy. Like that's the level of interest in participating in our game in the South Island. So, what's happening with this and with the Legacy Foundation, which is going to be trying to bring other events as well, is to really connect this community with the game of hockey in a way in people's minds across Canada, in the way that we're connected, those of us that live here. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, and just, having both of you on this podcast is just extremely important as the followers and as much as they're local here on the island in BC here, but honestly, there's worldwide, as still have many followers from back when my playing days. So lots being that, but appreciative of both, obviously your work. I think the hockey community and the locals, extremely, it just takes, as John said, it takes a lot, and a lot of people involved and pushing and pulling the same rope at the same time. So since I've been involved with this BW hockey, it's been almost 7 years now, which I can't believe. Finishing playing 4 years ago. It's like it has a reset. And I know we all went through COVID there as well, but we were managing to be able to practice and train on the ice and then do all those different things with protocols. But just feel like there's a lot more energy around the rinks and wanting to play. The kids love playing games. And certainly it seems like they are buying into the skill development drills that we provide. And, back in the day, I feel like it was just, we just want to play games and not really practice. These days, they actually love being out there with skills. So whatever coaches we have involved and all that, it's just all part of the hockey journey, I guess. And obviously working with the Victoria Reign as well. That's a new female program that has big numbers, especially in its younger ages that are just coming right up. So that should they're always pulling in their friends and all that to join hockey or to come watch hockey. So that's huge. And the whole reffing thing, I think as you mentioned, I'm sure the numbers must be up a little bit at least, but a lot of BW athletes that are becoming that I hear, I'm sure there's others out there, but that I hear that are becoming officials, which is amazing because of the I just hear it all the time. There's parents, there's coaches yelling at them, and it's kind of like, who wants to be a official ref when that's all happening, right? But it's so I tell everyone, every player that I hear is reffing, it's amazing what they're doing. And it's at such a young age, it teaches you so much. I personally did not want to be a ref when I was younger, and I don't think I could handle someone yelling at me back then. So interestingly
enough, Brandon, Ron McLean is going to do some refereeing clinics when he's here as well. So it's about every aspect of the celebration of hockey, including diversity around female hockey. We're going to have some sledge hockey programs as well. So it's about all ages for everybody. So
awesome. Yeah, no, you're bringing in many different reaches, which is awesome.
Brandon, it's funny, through BW hockey, we talked a little bit offline about hockey development as well. But I think you're approaching it the right way. If you can make it fun and meaningful, it doesn't have to be a game. You don't have to be out there playing against another team. As long as the on-ice experience isn't what it was hockey development in my day, which was do the horseshoe drill until you're running to pucks and because you shot them all out into the forest. If you make it fun and you make it meaningful and people see results, it's all about just enjoying yourself. Everybody should leave the ice with a smile on their face, and however that happens is the way that it is. So, and the Victoria Reign, that's an interesting thing that you raised there with that female hockey program here in the South Island, a real model for all across Canada. They were our Minor Hockey Association of the Year last year. I think the first time a all female association has won that. They've increased year over year in double-digit percentages since they started. And again, the only restriction right now in that program, which is an all ages women and girls hockey program, is just ice time. I mean, the number of women and girls that are trying to get into playing hockey is higher than it's ever been, and the demand is enormous. And then immediately a demand for development. Like, we want to get on the ice, we want to do more and do more. So it's a good news story. We just need to find a way to either reverse climate change and get the ice natural here, or build some facilities. Yeah.
Right, and that's definitely, I know a lot of families in our community are pushing for more ice sheets and facilities. So hopefully we can see that in the near future. Anything else you want to add on the Hockey Day in Canada before we go into a little bit of youth hockey before we let you guys go?
No, just it's a public event. The festivities down at Ship Point. Anybody can come down. We're gonna have park and rides from behind Save on Foods Memorial Center because parking's limited in the downtown core, as we know. It's a safe family atmosphere and alcohol-free event, and it's for everybody. The alumni game, of course, there's tickets being sold now on Select Your Tickets for that event. The gala does have tables available and seats available for that event as well. So yeah, we just would like everybody and anybody to participate. Don't hesitate to reach out. We do have a website out there now that you can click on and get all further details.
Again, Hockey Day in Canada, January 17th to 20th, with the alumni celebrity game January 19th at Save on Memorial Center. Okay, so yeah, just want to chat a little bit about, as the other podcasts that we've had, is talking a little bit about the youth hockey and development. Obviously Cam can speak as well, and John, fill in on, I mean, you're right in there with the community on, I'm sure, many hockey families and friends that you interact with. So I think, just Cam, since you've started 3 years ago with BC Hockey, what you've been able to kind of see just as you had progressed in that position of development with the youth.
I think well, we could spend hours talking about everything I've seen. And I mean, it was a bit of an eye-opener for me. I mean, my experience with minor hockey and youth hockey ended when I was no longer a minor and a youth, like many of us who grow up playing, hockey in some capacity, because then after that, I wasn't involved in hockey through the middle of my adult years, except playing beer league with my pals. I was practicing law, and then I was off, in the administration of hockey, and then in competitive hockey with management teams in the NHL and the WHL. So coming back down to grassroots and seeing what's happened in the last 30 years in terms of how kids and families are engaging with our game was a bit of an eye-opener for me. It's not the same as it was in 1978, believe me. The expectations are higher. The politics is a little more ingrained. The expense and the cost is enormous. We have enough barriers in our game, with the need for specialized equipment, the need for specialized ice surfaces. All of those things come with a cost. The need for specialized training, specialized skills. It's not like playing soccer. You just got to run down the field and learn how to kick a ball. You've got a whole bunch of additional skills that you're not born with, that you have to somehow undertake. And then you pile onto that difficulty in accessing ice, difficulty in terms of the cost. And then you pile on top of that some of the bad press that hockey has received recently, where people think it might not be a safe place for your son or daughter to play because, there's, talk about it being, super aggressive and either physically or mentally risky. And then on top of that, you have a pandemic, which says the very thing that we love to do with our game, which is to gather together and play a contact sport in some cases, you're not allowed to do for 2 years during the winter season. So it's been a real challenge seeing what the state of hockey is. Despite all that, it's stronger than ever. people in Canada want to play the game. New Canadians want to engage in the game because it's a way to engage in Canadian culture. People that left the game want to come back and play. People are staying in the game longer. Used to be in my era, if you weren't on the AAA team by the time you're 18, you probably might as well just stop playing. That's not true anymore. People are finding a niche and finding a way to play. So it's been gratifying to see. And it's not just local. I mean, we're seeing it here in the South Island, but we're really seeing it all across BC and all across Canada. Just this feeling that despite all of the setbacks and all of the things that can mitigate against this game as being a part of your life, because it's complicated. Despite all of that, it seems to me to be as healthy as ever. I keep my fingers and toes crossed, for the health of our game. But if there's good news out of bad news, the bad news for some communities, particularly in the Lower Mainland and in Vancouver Island, is we don't have the advantage that Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Manitoba has, where they can flood rinks and anyone who wants to play has got a place to play. We're restricted by our inability to create ice except artificially in facilities. That's the choke point here in Lower Mainland and BC. But except for that I guess is a good news story, because if the game wasn't healthy otherwise, that wouldn't be a problem. So I guess that's the silver lining on that. But overall, I'm pleased with the way things are going. It's been our game, the community sport model for delivering hockey, which is what Hockey Canada and BC Hockey do. It runs off of the hard work and the dedication of volunteers mostly, right? People are being paid. There's coaches being paid, and obviously officials get their stipend when they go. But it is largely, at almost all ages, up to the super competitive, a volunteer operated system with tens of thousands of volunteers every weekend making it happen. And that makes it a good news cultural story for Canada, and just a win in every direction. And when I go to when we have our championship weekends in March, right, from U13 and 15 and 9, and I pop into the rinks there and they're full and people are excited and cheering, and it almost doesn't matter who wins, although I'm sure it does. It's just the energy you get from that makes it easy to come to work.
That's awesome. And just like talk to many former teammates and players that I've played against, all in hockey and all that across Canada, even into North America kind of thing, just how hockey's evolved everywhere. I believe also just thinking from the evolving standpoint is, everyone coming out of the game, including my, parents' generation, but into my generation, of how much opportunity we had, more opportunity we had, I should say, to keep playing. And now the kids now, how much opportunity they have to keep playing. And it doesn't just have to be, get to the NHL, get to the pros or college hockey. They can be playing club hockey in many different places around. And that just continues, their development for hockey, of course, and the journey of their life. But it just challenges them as people as well to keep developing.
And John can speak to this too, because he's been involved with the VCHL in the past, although they're not in sanctioned hockey anymore, so we don't want to talk about them. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, it's an optimistic, it's an optimistic thing when you work in an environment where there are people coming through that are, they're mostly not going to go to the National Hockey League, but that's not really their goal anyway. They're just trying to find a way to keep hockey in their lives. And if it does work out and they're able to, make a career out of it, like you did, Brandon, that's icing on the cake. But, going on and getting an education, getting a scholarship to go here or there, even playing in the Western League and using their scholarship package, it's wonderful. But, that's the top 5% or so of players at that age. The rest are finding a way to keep hockey in their lives, which is really gratifying for me. I mean, it's just, when you make this game a part of your life, it gives you other ongoing connections, skills, socialization and community involvement that just pays dividends, 10 times, what you think it might, and it has nothing to do with money. So that's my stump speech on the value of hockey.
Of course, yeah.
Well,
Um,
we could talk about the Vancouver Island Junior Hockey League because they're sanctioned, and I know Brandon played for our arch rival Victoria Cougars when I was in ownership of the Peninsula Panthers, and my son played for the Panthers as well. So that is a perfect league of what you're talking about, Cam, about players just wanting to play at a high level and go to UVic, go to Camosun, carry on with their trades training, whatever it may be. And then others like Brandon who come along at 16, 17 years old and looking to advance to the next level as well. But we were so fortunate on this island and the lower island in particular, the amount of hockey we have and the amount of skilled hockey players that come out of this area with the limitations on ice that you've already spoken about is amazing. The Ben brothers, it just one of many, and it's in large part, I think, to the opportunities that the VIJHL offer and the major program, of course, in although it's called something else now, sorry, but that's what it was called at BC Hockey, and the opportunities kids have to play at all levels, but also if they do want to advance skill wise, they have opportunities to work with people like you, Brandon, and the programs that the BC Hockey have into play and private programs as well. So I think we're just very, very fortunate to have as many programs in an area, in such a really small geographical area that we have on Vancouver Island, in southern Vancouver Island in particular. And it bodes well for the future of development of hockey for players of all ages and all generations to come.
yeah, no, absolutely. I play with two different groups. It's more so called the scrimmage games. Just we separate the teams and play, but just talking with all of them and just have such a great time. Not only playing on the ice, but learning from them as well of what their hockey journey and their lives coming up was like. And now, I mean, all these kids we're going with the U13 Admirals group to China in January and end of January, and what an opportunity for those kids, and incredible commitment by the I think it's called the Aomi Sports from China to be able to help with those funds to bring those players over. And just a new I guess these kids will definitely get a new perspective on the world at such a young age, where I did get to go that far at young age. But yeah, it's just Cam and I were talking previous to coming on here with the recording, but it's just what you can get out of hockey as well. As much as I came from the competitive hockey world, I meet a lot of both men and women that just started hockey at different ages, whether it be in their teenage years, early 20s, and even some that just picked up the stick here as they have young kids playing now and they want to learn it for themselves or to interact with their kids. So it's very interesting answers and responses I get from them, and that's how cool the game is. And to be part of it, I think again, it's just we're all very fortunate. And
I think for anybody who is engaged with your podcast too, I probably is preaching to the choir, but it doesn't have to be hockey, any sport. Stay involved. That's where your friendships are going to be, or at least some of them. Personally, I didn't know how important it was for me to continue to play hockey when I was practicing law in Edmonton, right? I'm not playing competitively anymore. We're just sticks in the ice on Tuesday nights, and we play, and then we go and tell stories at the local pizza parlor after about how good we were, and then lie to our spouses when we got home. But when my career took me to New York City, so I arrive in New York City, I'm 40 years old. I don't know anybody. What am I going to do? So I found the local, recreational hockey league down to Chelsea Piers. Went down. They had, tryout day. They put you into a division, and all of my best friends for the next 10 years when I lived in New York are guys that I met on those hockey teams. Like, that's it. And we have this one thing in common, right? We all want to play hockey in our spare time, what little spare time you have when you're working in the city. We wanted to spend it playing hockey and then hanging out with each other. And they're still amongst my best friends. And that's amazing. And it doesn't have to be hockey, but if you play a sport and you stay involved in it, you don't have to turn it into a profession. It's just critical. And that strengthens our communities as a result. So anyway, I know that anyone who is listening to this probably already knows all of that, but in case you don't, it's more important than you think it is to stay engaged in the game. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just reminding everyone what they receive, especially all behind trying to their goals and dreams, as once I had, was always just to, at a young age, to play high level college hockey, NHL, and try and do everything you could to get there. But my parents were always saying to keep me balanced, and all that was just to, as long as you're getting education, getting a scholarship, you're playing hockey while going to school, which I couldn't believe I wouldn't believe if I could go to school without hockey. I just don't know how I would have so much free time. But yeah, again, hockey does so much, and again, bringing Hockey Day in Canada here coming up in a few weeks, or we'll say 6 weeks coming up, but will be very exciting. One more question before we let you guys both go with your busy days, but would like to chat a little bit about mentors for both of you and how they've allowed you to start up any of these roles or positions or your own businesses at your younger age, and also as you continue on with your long-term success and careers, whether you want to name some people or just in general, and just how it impacted you. It really, I mean, we provide in our hockey, in our community, we're providing many different former players, coaches, and mentors to help the kids out. It's just first people to look up to.
Cam Hope's always been my mentor. I've looked up to him ever since I was a young boy.
You stole my thunder. I was going to say John Wilson. Yeah.
I'm very fortunate. I come from a family business. I'm second generation, and my dad mentored me along. My mom and dad, I should say, mentored me along, and they have been integral. I'm very fortunate to have them in my life, and they helped start our company and build our company. And I was fortunate enough to be able to take it on with my wife, and now my kids are involved as well, and as well as my nephew. So without my mom and dad's mentoring along the way, and I just spent 4 hours with my dad on Sunday, and he's doesn't hesitate to continue to mentor me, whether I want to hear it or not, as far as helping me with. But with us, I mean, I get bugged very often by my friends in the business world, but it is about the community. My daughter, Samantha, who's heavily involved here, often said she never wanted to be involved in the bus business until she found out what we can give back to the community. And this is a special, born and raised here, it's a special place where if you give to and be involved in the community, it's not just all about money, it's about time. And I mean, Cam talks about all the volunteers in hockey, right? In minor hockey, and on it goes. You create relationships, friendships, and people want to support you. They want to support you, and in turn, they want to support your business. It happens in Victoria. It probably happens in other areas too. But I know in the bigger markets, it's probably not as integral as it is in areas like Victoria. Thrifty Foods is a perfect example where the Campbell family, who Mr. Campbell was one of my idols, and he did it the right way. He built it. He gave back to the community. He took on the giants, the Safeways of the world, and was successful on Vancouver Island because of what he gave back to the community. So I think it's very important. And I learned that from a lot of people, my dad, but other business folks as well as Mr. Campbell. And our family is very ingrained in that we want to give back as much or more from this community as we take out of it. So it's very important for us.
And Cam?
Yeah, that's so well said, and it's so true. I guess in general, look around in your community and see who those people are that are the straw that's stirring the drink. And John is, and Paul Nursey and Keith Wells and the people that are doing these things in Victoria. If you're looking for mentorship, you couldn't look at a much better target than that. Personally, I've just been on this incredible lifetime winning streak with mentors, right? Like John, I had great parents who were super role models for me. When I started practicing law, just stroke of luck, small law firm, a couple of guys that nobody's ever heard of. I'm going to say their names and people are going to go, so what? A guy named Peter Duckett, a guy named Don Dean, who were partners in the law firm. And when you're a young lawyer starting up, you think you know everything. And after a while, you realize you don't know anything. And it's a good thing you got your mentors there to guide you through. And then in the hockey business, incredible stroke of luck, with the Rangers. Don Maloney was there as an assistant GM at the time. Glenn Sather was the GM the entire time I was there. It's amazing what great leaders they are. Don is still active and working in management with the Calgary Flames. I can't even, if we spent 5 years on this podcast, I couldn't tell you all the things I learned from them at a time when I thought I knew everything, right? So just an incredible ride I've had with mentors. And for those of us that get into a position like this, and if anyone's on a podcast and like, geez, I don't really have a mentor. I love it when I get a call out of the blue. I'll get a call from a student at Camosun. I'm sure John does too, because of his business acumen, and where someone will say, "Look, can I bother you for 15 minutes, or can we have a coffee? I want to know, a little bit about, how you got where you are." First of all, us old guys are always flattered, so we're happy to take those calls. But it's rewarding, and all of a sudden it reminds me, A, I'm older than I think I am, but B, I do have some things that I can pass on, because we've all been through the trials and tribulations of trying to find our way. But if you're lucky like me and you've been able to glom onto some great mentors, it's time to give back. So that's a great question.
And as you talk about the Rangers, I just recently had on and been posting Neil Smith. Had you crossed, of course, I'm sure you know him, but had you crossed paths with him in the Rangers organization there? Or?
We missed each other. He was the outgoing general manager when Glenn Sather came in, and I joined that regime. But he was around New York. In fact, we didn't live that far apart from each other. He was scouting for Anaheim at the time, so I'd see him on the street and in the arena, but we didn't work together.
Yeah, and obviously in the Ranger system when you were there, as we talked before, but he owned the Greenville Road Warriors there.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, so again, just going back to our conversations about the very small, tight-knit hockey community out there in the world.
And we were talking about this before we got on, John. Sorry you missed all this, but Brandon was trying to impress me with his stats in Greensville, and I reminded him that I'd been down there watching some players play during that time, and I called him out on it. No, it's not true. He as anyone who actually knows his history, he was an incredible offensive weapon, and those years in Greenville were I'm sure a lot of fun. But I'd forgotten that Neil Smith was involved and owned that team. That's right.
Yeah, lots of Rangers, including I've been at Quinnipiac. We had Chris Kotsopoulos there. He still does the play-by-play, I believe, is one of them there, and Barry Beck is in Hong Kong. So lots of Ranger alumni out there in the hockey world and communities.
I think Barry Beck has the largest head of any human being I've ever seen.
Yeah, with the Ranger captain, we could probably do it all.
Yeah. Actually, I think we'd be remiss. We talk about junior hockey, and I as someone who's been in ownership and knowing what it was pre-pandemic, and certainly of hearing what it being involved with our business and such post-pandemic, junior hockey owners need a shout out. It is a passion play. It's not a retirement plan by any means, and most of them are losing money, but they do it for the good of their community and for their passion for hockey. And it gives opportunity for people like you, Brandon, who came through the junior hockey system to develop their skills and move on, to get education on all that. And I don't think it's said enough. And the sponsors as well, people who come out and sponsor, it's taken as a given. But in today's economic climate, post-pandemic, companies that still have budget to support sport and youth sport in particular, they need to be noticed and they need to be supported, both locally and nationally if they are, for what they do, and giving youngsters of all backgrounds the opportunity in any sport to have fun, participate, and in some cases advance, like yourself, Brandon. So it doesn't get talked about enough because most people think ownership is about making lots of money. And I can tell you firsthand, it is not at the junior levels for sure. So it's about a passion for the sport and a passion for your community. And those people deserve to get the hats taken off to them and supported for what they do.
Yeah, totally. Well said again. Appreciate Cam and John both coming on to the podcast. Again, just influencing all, of course, the hockey players, but for anyone in Greater Victoria that will be able to take part in this Hockey Day in Canada, January 17th to 20th event. Very exciting coming months here, and I guess we'll be in touch here
Brandon, please stay in touch. We'd like to have you involved any way you can as your time permits, for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much to the two of you.
Great. Thanks for having us on. Fantastic.
Have a great day. Good to see you, Cam.
Good you.
Bye-bye.